The Norfolk Business Show with Danny Snelling. Sponsored by MT Comms.
Right, today we have the amazing Ryan Nesbitt in the studio. I say the studio, it was looking pristine this morning when he walked in an hour ago. And since then, because he's insistent on having more cameras set up, he's absolutely destroyed my office stroke studio here. And we have mics and cameras and just shit everywhere, basically. And it's been a whirlwind, but we're there now anyway. And I think everything's recording. Certainly my camera's recording, my one camera, and my little lapel mics. It's good gear. They do the job, but you helped me sort of set this up first stages, and you gave me some tips and things. And I just said, no, I'm not going to bother doing any of that because I just need, I haven't got time to edit and do all these fancy tricks. So, you'll take us as he come. But Ryan has brought another camera with him today, so we might see some edits of that as well. So, Ryan, welcome. Ryan Nesbitt, everyone. And Ryan's done a few different things since I've known him. And we've known each other, well, getting on for 10 or 12 years now.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us what you're best known for at the moment? And then we'll perhaps take a bit of a rewind.
Yeah. So I'm kind of best known for two things, but do you mean the main business?
I guess so. Yeah.
So the main business we're working on at the moment is called Revyoo, and it's focused on clients capturing feedback, building their reputations online, whether that be on Google, Facebook, Trustpilot, TripAdvisor, Yelp, anything like that, really. We help them obtain feedback, primarily good, obviously, we're looking for, but also a lot of our businesses use it for staff development and all sorts of things like that.
Keep the camera rolling. I'll show a little demo.
Oh, yeah. So,
but that's mine, isn't it? And our engineers have got these, and whenever they do a job, they just ask the client, can you tap here? And it taps there. And
the other side, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And it opens the, an Apple, or opens the web page, is it?
Yeah. It's NFC. We've got lots of different ways of clients capturing the feedback, but it's that's the NFC product we use. So the NFC takes it to a client landing page, and then from there, the customer of our clients will be able to choose which platform they want to leave feedback on, and or video testimonials or private feedback or whatever it might be. And and there's all sorts of tricks and bells and social media stuff in there and things like that. But it's been really well received. I mean, we kind of soft launched it this year. We've obviously got the reason we've got cameras and stuff is we've also got a video production business, as you know, Scoop. But this has had a real, this has been a good product. I mean, so we kind of soft launched it this year. It's tested out, ironed out a few of the creases, and it's been well received. And we've been servicing smaller businesses, but now we're engaging with multi-location nationals, and it's been good.
Yeah, and it's going places, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Scoop, but perhaps before we touch on that, let's rewind and go back in time, and I don't know, let's start right from the beginning. I know you're local-ish, but where did it all begin?
Well, born in Surrey, and kind of grew up in London. For the first sort of 10 years, I was in Swiss Cottage, North London, and my first job was in Oxford Street. So, that was just a short bus ride. So, I grew up in London, and then moved to school in Surrey at the age of 11, and then all sorts of travel, and managed to go around the world from the age of about 18.
Wow. But hang on, just rewind. Did you do uni?
Did uni, but slightly late because of all the traveling, and that was in North London. Just chose the local one. But prior to that, I'd lived in Paris, Milan, Tokyo. Studied and played rugby on the west coast of La Rochelle, on the west coast of France in La Rochelle. So I played rugby all around France.
So what was the travelling all about? Was it your parents?
Well, I mean, I've got to do this on a podcast, have I?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what's it all?
Oh, what's not? Okay. So at the age of 19, I was picked up by a modelling agency on the King's Road and called Models One. And
Yeah, I don't even know this. I keep it very quiet. And this is very quiet.
and Davina McCall was my agent.
Wow.
And it was a really good agency at the time. My girlfriend was knew someone there, and we went to a party, and they invited me in, and so then I was off to. I had a kind of year of doing Just 17 and stuff like that, you know, More and all those kind of magazines for the teenagers. I was only probably, God, I was probably 18 at the time, and then at 19, I got approached by a Japanese agency in Tokyo, and they were very keen, so they flew me over there, and I spent 6 months in Tokyo, and then from there, kind of went to Paris and then Milan with different agencies. You kind of get like, it's like going on a loan, you know, and had the experience. It was a great experience, and particularly Tokyo. I just love the place. It's amazing. I mean, there's a 19-year-old living in Roppongi in central Tokyo. It's just mad.
Wow.
It's brilliant fun, and they allow you. They want all the models to go into their club, so you basically get free drink.
Wow.
Every night if you want it. And I was sharing an apartment with the other guy who was my age as well. Was like Mr. Levi's US Australia, and he was just an absolute bloke.
Mm.
So it was carnage. And then, but it was a great experience. But I got to Milan, and I just realised how fickle and how shallow it was. I won't go into the stories, but just a kind of seedy environment, really. So I literally just packed it all up and went and worked in a bar in the West End, and then I did that for a few years, and then started in telecoms, and then worked in that for a long time, and ended up at O2, and then from there I went to an advertising agency, and then the marketing started. So that was probably, I would say, about 27, I would say. Moved into marketing. I worked for a Google business partner in Hammersmith, very successful one, selling big ad campaigns and stuff like that. And that's where I went to Google head office in Paris and really started to learn about the industry. And from there, not only the advertising element, but the creative side as well started to come out of me. And it started to really, rather than it just be straight up sales, get that product into that customer's hand, it started to become more about the elements the creative elements that I started to
get them there.
I started to really find that interesting, and the campaigns that I did were quite successful because of those elements compared to some of the others. So yeah, it was good.
Mm-hmm. So the whole marketing side of it, did that did you do well at that company and progress in that company, or did you have thought then of doing anything on your own? Or
so what it basically is a very heavy sales environment, quite brutal actually, and I seem to do well getting sort of high-end clients. I would approach the kind of diamond resellers and people like that needed very niche campaigns on Google, and I seem to get those, whereas a lot of the guys in my department were going for the smaller businesses that would spend smaller amounts but like to keep them. I was going for the more risky accounts, but they just seemed to work really well. So yeah, I did pretty well there. But the environment was just, I mean, yeah, it's got to be borderline illegal, these places. They are savage with their staff. It's a horrible environment.
Probably don't do it anymore, are they? But yeah.
And my son had just been born, and I was now living back in London 3 days a week, having moved up to Norfolk just the year before. And I just didn't.
What got you up in Norfolk?
My ex-wife,
right?
And it's a great place to bring up kids, so I have no regrets on that front. But I was back in London. I mean, I like being there, but I kind of grown out of it by that point. I wanted to be back here. I've been wanting to be a dad for a long time, and I just wanted to go. So I left, but the phone kept ringing. So my client said to me, "Can you help with this? Can you help with this?" And they all a few of them approached me, and it kind of got things going. So I started up my first company. It's a consultancy, really branded up as a company, but and that's kind of what got it started.
What did you call that? Was it
Eastworks.
Did I know you then, or was it?
That was when I first joined the networking.
Yeah.
When we first met.
We first met at a networking thing. I always remember it. Wroxham or Coltshall Way, was it? The Norfolk Mead? Oh, no, it was Wroxham, wasn't it? It was that guy who owned that hotel in Wroxham.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Right, and it was with Tom, forget his surname, and Jess from Air Ambulance.
Oh, wow.
And there was a few of us all together afterwards. Yeah. I remember it well. But yeah. So yeah, Eastworks. I remember Eastworks. I remember the name of it. Yeah.
We basically just, at the time, it was just very much, branding and web and, graphic design, stuff like that.
Yeah. But presumably, I don't know, that venture, how long did that last, and how long before we talk?
It was a really good fun. I mean, it was a great thing. This is what I often say to young entrepreneurs, like, it just doesn't matter. Like, you'll be fine whatever happens. Just give it the beans and see what you can learn out of it. Because the first venture doesn't have to be the one that, defines you. And I mean, I just got divorced and I had nothing. I mean, literally nothing. And I just had my laptop and some bits and pieces. I set up this company on an absolute shoestring. Applied for an startup awards ceremony by a company called Ixion that were connected to Anglia Ruskins.
Yeah.
And they had like 50 businesses going in for these various categories. I put my application in, got a phone call and said, "Are you coming to these awards then?" And we cleaned up. I got best creative business and best new business in East Anglia.
Wow.
It's like, wow.
Quite an accolade, yeah.
So that was great. And we got got a few grand for prize money, which I put straight in, some of which I put into networking, which is how I met the likes of you. So that was probably 12 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like that.
20, well, it was probably maybe 13. It was, year 2000, I think, or 2011.
So I put that moment to meeting a large part of the people that I now see as friends and business colleagues.
Yeah. I mean, I often have these conversations about, I have hundreds of, I think they're friends, but they're business acquaintances really, aren't they? And
of course they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So I often say about friends in business and I've got hundreds of people I know through business that I also consider friends, and we socialise together and everything else. But then I've equally had people who, not in business that, I've known for years, and they've sort of almost said to me that they're not friends really, are they? And yeah, they absolutely are. I go on holiday with lots of them, and, they're absolutely people I call.
It's no different to, say, meeting people at school, or it's just people you see a lot. Some people that come into those business environments see it as very just transactional. But actually, I always say to people, if you come into these situations with an open heart and be a good person, and you see these people regularly, they're going to become friends.
Absolutely. And it's trusting as well, isn't it? Once you've built that trust and friendships, you're more inclined to work with them or do work with them. Or
I don't see you all the time, but I'm pretty sure I could phone you up and say, "Daddy, help me out with this," or "Do you want to go for a beer?" You drop everything.
Yeah.
I just, I think that would apply to much of our business network that we work with.
Absolutely. It's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is something I often pick up from people who don't really get it. It's yeah. So where are we? You're in Eastworks still, and at what point did you, I don't know, realise that it needs a brand change, or we need to do something different direction or whatever?
I mean, Eastworks was just my kind of almost billing brand, really. That was all it was. But it was starting to change into different areas, and then COVID hit. I started a company called Swig with a former colleague who used to be the founder of oh my God, the brewery that was down near Trails. That's terrible. I'll come to me in a minute. And we started just in start of COVID, we started a small little consultancy agency, whatever you want to call it, for the drinks trade because she had a specific skill set in there. And we did some campaigns, websites, branding work for various breweries, and we did the new Lacon's website, things like that, and various bits and pieces. But COVID was hard,
that industry especially.
Yeah, it did well for us during that campaign, but I think during that period, but towards the end of it, I was frustrated about my lack of knowledge in the industry. It's very, you've really got to know your stuff. If you ideally, there's very specific things you need to know about the industry, and also, Amy, my business partner, was so talented. People were coming to her hand over fist trying to get her to, and because of the instability, I said to her, "You should go and get a salary. You've got kids and everything else." And by that point, I was already becoming obsessed with filming anyway. It just hit the spot for me creatively, and I'd started to spend quite a lot of money on cameras, it's just that there's a syndrome in filming called GAS. It's gear acquisition syndrome. You just keep buying stuff,
Really?
and nothing is cheap.
Yeah. So I've sensed that about myself. I know if I got into that or into this podcasting, for example, I would end up with all the gear. I've already spent quite a bit on this setup, but I'm sure a proper videographer would think this is all pads. But I'm trying to minimize my time editing, so it's one camera, one shot.
It's nuts. You will very to have a small video setup. Your minimum £7 or £8 minimum.
Wow. Yeah.
So just your memory cards are £300. Your every little thing, every little gadget is hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and you've got 1,000 of them. So you spend, even a one-man band would spend easily 15k just getting all that kit just to set up.
Wow.
And you've got to replace bits, and it's worth it. It's good output.
Yeah.
Just I love the creative process. I love the output. And had a lot of fun doing it, and still doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's also an absolute.
So this is no scoop films.
Scoop films, yeah.
So at this point,
yeah, and
created the brand, I guess, and
created the brand, had it all up very quickly. Did a variety of sectors. It's basically corporate videos, commercials. We did some little bit for Sky. Just creating stuff that helps businesses. The challenge in that sector is that it's also possible to do it quite cheaply, and the clients can't always tell. So there's lots of very young kids coming in with no cost for living or anything else, so they can undercut everyone. And I don't think, and there maybe isn't the appreciation sometimes as to the differences between certain work.
Joe, I've actually had exactly the same thing happen twice to me. So obviously years ago, while I was full-time employed, I started a web design company. And this was mid-90s, and I could charge what I like because I was the only one back then. It was raw HTML coders before the what you see is what you get editors and anything like that. And I could charge whatever I liked. It was £500 a page, basically. And no one else was doing it. And then all of a sudden, Dreamweaver, came out, and it was game changer. And suddenly everyone was offering it, and these young lads were doing it, and I lost my nerve of pursuing that in the end, and I pulled the plug on it. But then I had it again with drones. So you might remember I set up that drone company early on, that aerial photography.
I remember.
And it was a hobby, but it was fun, and got all the gear and proper gas, as you would call it, big drones, and spent a fortune on it. And again, just every man and his dog had a bloody drone and was saying, "Oh yeah, I know, do it commercially."
And did you find that the people that you were trying, did they understand the value of the work you were doing?
Not at all.
And I think as much as I love this county, as much as I love Norfolk, it is sometimes a little bit behind on, people are very laboured in their decision making,
and it's cost, isn't it? At the end of the day, people were coming. I was.
It's nice to have.
Yeah, I wouldn't turn up to a job unless I was being paid, a certain amount. Whereas there was adverts on Facebook, or I can do a drone shot of your building or whatever for 7p and a buck. One, have it up. What? Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? But then equally, you can see commercially why that happens.
But I also think that there's a big part of it is, it, over time, it's actually more about the relationships than anything else. So
Yeah.
I've seen time and time again people that, that aren't charging rock bottom prices, but they're reliable. They do what they say they're going to do, and they put out a good product, and they're good people, and that attracts as much as anything else. And people are more than happy to pay a sensible price for things if you can fulfill those criteria.
Never sell cheap. I know that one
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So Scoot continues. So we've just done we've just finished the video literally last week for this, for one of the applicants for the Small Business Award. So that's Dragonfly. And we continue to do it. It's fun. I love it. I love the output. And I think I said to you before, the owner of the business was quite emotional, when they saw
Mark Rupp, bless him, is
great. And I was so pleased for him because he was sometimes, when we film businesses like that, where they're just going to that next stage and they see themselves in that light, they've, as all business owners can testify, that you grind, and you're just the swan, the paddling feet under the water and, reaching for breath. And then all of a sudden you get to these moments that kind of make you sit for a second and just go, oh, so we have moved on a notch. And they see themselves.
I almost see that Midasana is what they call it, imposter syndrome. They spend most of their life in imposter syndrome. Should I really be here, or am I really a boss of a company?
Am I as good as these other companies? And all of a sudden, when you see yourself in that light, it can really just mentally shift you. And that's one of the things I love about it, the reward of seeing that. So yeah.
So biggest challenges in Scoop, is it what's the pandemic? Was it? I don't know.
Yeah, undoubtedly. But it's just, video has enormous value if it's done in the right way. Biggest challenges are pricing, but it's like lots of marketing. We've often seen over the years businesses that will say, it's well known that businesses will say marketing is the first cost to go. I mean, it's hard. In my eyes, it's hard to argue that actually that's when times are tough to probably push.
Yeah.
If anyone's ever read the Branson book, he talks about that, and it's just. But it's very, very hard to be visible or to be seen with so much noise out there at the moment, and video is undoubtedly one of the best mechanisms for that.
So, proudest moment. What's been your proudest moment? Be it Scoop, be it Review. What's been the highlight?
Well, I think the awards were pretty. I was going through a very, very difficult time personally, and I was literally. I remember I was probably beans 3 or 4 days a week. Beans on toast. I treat myself to a £5 bottle of wine on a Friday night. I had nothing in my house. I moved in with nothing, and it was difficult. And I just was grinding every day. I had my first podcast in 2011, and I was interviewing people. I was just trying anything just to keep myself occupied. And the awards were a big deal. They just suddenly just opened up, doors and allowed me to meet people that I still know really well to this day. So it's just those little moments, but yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest. It was a bit of vindication of the hard work,
Yeah. Obviously I was going to say that was proudest moment, but I was going to say, what was your toughest moment? I'm guessing it was that. And
yeah, that whole period was really difficult. The proudest moment is obviously the birth of my son, but in business it would be that, I would say. Really lovely feeling. Long days. But I'm just convinced that it doesn't mean you're not always going to succeed, but you'll certainly learn and you'll grow, and it's another stepping stone to finally getting where you want to, whether that be as a person or wealth or whatever. But as long as you're pushing and you're trying and you're evolving, then life gets better in ways, in different ways.
I mean, I know, I've asked you if I can touch on this, but obviously you've recently found out you ADHD diagnosed.
At 50, yeah.
Yeah. But, even for me and people that know you, as soon as you hear it, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So certainly for you, that must be almost a relief to have that. So it's not even a title, but have that as.
So at school, I went to a very sporty school, and I was always on the go. Like, my nickname was Sport Billy, and I would play everything, always, every day, as much as I could. Could never stick to one sport, just changing in the classroom, couldn't focus. I knew I wasn't stupid. I just knew it. It wasn't like, I just couldn't retain information or couldn't focus on it long enough. Absolutely, my exams were a disaster, which is why I went to France and played rugby. And I knew I loved French, and there was a great college on the west of France. But I knew I wanted to be active, and I knew I wanted to learn a language. But yeah, all of that stuff. I'd been tested. There was a place in Hampstead, just near where I lived, that tested us. It was very early days of the testing. They didn't really understand it. Tested it. No, we can't. They tested my hearing. They tested my eyes. They tested everything. Just couldn't focus. So it had been a challenge. The one thing that had always helped me was exercise. I've always been a keen sportsman. It's always a thing that's kept me calm, allowed me to sleep and everything else. And so that's really helped. But yeah, got diagnosed at the age of 50. I'm now 51. And it's been pretty groundbreaking, actually. And it's just clarified so many things that I'm sure, I've met since lots of creative people, actually, interestingly.
Yeah.
Lots of people in creative, videographers, photographers, lots of people that just need to be, they've got really active brains, and they need to, they can't be doing what I would call the blue jobs, the administrative, Gerald Training, the company locally, they do the insights discovery, and they have the colour schemes for different people. The people that are accountants and things like that, they typically wouldn't have ADHD. It's more the creative, and but it's really helped me understand myself a lot better. Those doubts or those feelings of maybe not being what I want to be, all of those make sense now. So it's just making people aware. I don't, it's one of some.
Well, it's not something you have to band about, is it? It's just. No. I think for those that know you well enough, there's no harm in them knowing, because it does explain a lot. Like, you walked in here this morning, it was like, what the hell is going on? I just literally made my office look immaculate, and within 10 minutes of you being here, it was like, I'll tell you how I describe it. I've just got a new puppy. Yeah. You've met him. Oh, God. He's insane, and he's like a whirlwind going into a room, and he'll just tear it up. That's Ryan.
That's me. But as long as the output is right, then all that's forgotten.
Absolutely. And another thing I'm going to criticise you for is you are someone who cannot ever say no to helping people out.
I agree with that.
You do it all the time, to the extent that you then can't do the job because you promise everyone you'll do everything.
I want to help everyone.
I know. Yeah.
I know.
If you can take a little bit of advice from me,
I'm trying
try
to
and say no occasionally.
I love. And particularly when I see something that I know I can really help with. Mm-hmm. But then you're right, I'm running 2 businesses. And
I've learned it with this podcast. Yeah. I could be really obsessive about doing this properly, getting all the lighting right, editing the shit out of it,
I know.
And doing all this. But I haven't got time for that, and I know I haven't got time for that.
And those details drive me bonkers.
It would drive you bonkers.
It would drive me bonkers. Yeah. Absolutely bonkers. And people think I'm probably messy. My house is really tidy, really tidy. So it depends, but it does get a bit chaotic, and then I have to fix it, and there's some very strange.
The way I look at it, if I asked our listeners perhaps to feedback, look at all my previous episodes versus this one, and this one won't be perfect because you've only had one camera here today, and you've got to work with my camera.
Yeah.
But is it really worth the extra I don't know how long it's going to take to edit. Maybe your way, if you had 2 or 3 cameras here, maybe an hour.
I would argue that you're likely to, the bigger the audience you have, the more elements and camera angles and the little detail, the more you keep people engaged. But
I'm sure you're right.
But that's just me, because it's something I do.
Yeah. But I'm not really doing this for big numbers or figures or viewing figures, because I don't think I'm ever going to get those viewing numbers, because I'm niching it so far. You've got to be in Norfolk for one thing. Well, that's straight away 0.001 of the population, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they've got to be business owners or have an interest in business to be listening. So I'm never going to get those numbers, and I'm hoping for those people watching, they don't give a shit if there's 3 cameras in there or 1, or I've spent 3 hours editing it or 20 minutes.
No, I'm sure you're right, mate. I'm sure you're right. But
that's my decision. I'll just hit the mic then. You see, you probably want to edit that bit out.
But you're right, and you keep it. You're absolutely, both of us are right in different ways. You're absolutely right to keep it lean, keep it consistent, and get it out there. The problem with being obsessed with those details are that all your projects end up going much, much longer. You make less money, but it's that gut feeling that I get, that I know it has to be the right output.
Yeah.
And I sweat the small stuff, but it's a benefit and it's a hindrance.
And it's also different. This is not, and I'm not selling this, I'm not making money from this. It's just a bit of brand awareness.
Yeah.
If it was a client's work, then yes, I would treat it differently, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you've got to say, make yourself aware of that. This project does not need to be perfect. You've always got to say it. I'm guessing, before you start doing it.
Yeah.
You have to obviously tell yourself, look, this does not need much of my time. This is not important. This is not earning me money. This does. So do this properly. And I guess you have got to almost lecture yourself daily on what's important and what's not.
Yeah. But when a client's paying,
absolutely,
yeah. No, but you're absolutely right. You're right.
So I don't know, advice to people starting in the industry, but I guess that with the 2 industries, no one's gonna start a review company, I'm sure, but it's quite unique.
Yeah.
But I always like to ask that question.
Well, okay. So I would say my probably number one piece of advice, to probably in terms of a broad bit of advice, is look after yourself. And you hear this quite a lot, but people don't really understand what that means. And I would say that, having been someone that's always been quite active, the times when I neglect that are the times, it's no coincidence, those are probably the times that I've found business the most hard. When I just say, I'm too busy to take care of that, or too busy to look after myself. And I don't mean go out and do CrossFit every lunchtime. I mean, get yourself out for a walk. Even the last quarter last year, I was absolutely burning it at both ends and neglected my fitness and health, and my sleep got worse, my stress levels went up. And then as soon as Christmas hit, so just before Christmas, I started back out running and training at the gym with friends, and instantly everything just calms. That's very much for me, but I would say generally it's well known that I almost have put it as a commitment to the business, like a part of the business plan, if you like. So as much as making sure Xero's up to date, and as much as anything like that, the 3 to 4 times a week going out and that personal maintenance, everything seems to go off that. So I sleep better, I have better days the next day, that tiredness doesn't kick in. And that's been a really big one. I mean, there's lots of elements to business, but that for me personally, it's become a really important one. But equally, as well as that, I would say, and which kind of lends itself to it, is the people you surround yourself with. So it's all about physical and mental health. If you surround through the business network that we're all in, I probably get 10 calls a week, or I'll make calls as well, where people just shooting the shit, just sharing ideas and leaning on each other a little bit, and that's you can't put a price to that, because when you are, and I've been there, sat there on your own, trying to make something happen, and the world notice you, and you're just shouting into an empty room, it's bloody hard. So just having that network to confide in and to support and maybe introduce you to people and whatever, it just lifts you mentally. And because as we all know, if you're on your own, or just a couple of you, and you're trying to make a noise, it's very bloody hard. Really, really hard.
I've got to touch on technology now. So
sure.
Obviously, there's enough technology in this room to see,
there is
to run an army, but
there's a few quid in there.
It's obviously that side of it is changing all the time. I'm sure latest spec cameras and God knows what else, and this and the other. But as I've found out, editing has moved on quite significantly, and with this as well. You showed me a really cool program to do the text editing. But technology in general. In marketing as well, how has that moved on, and how has that changed over the years, and what's the sort of technology you use daily without realising it? Perhaps you might be using an app all the time, and it's invaluable to you. I know you use Zero, and obviously your photo editing, video editing stuff. But
I mean, I'm constantly trying. I'm a bit of a software geek, so I'm part of there's a couple of websites that I use that allow me to get early access to websites, get particularly good deals. I might sit on them for a year because they're not ready, and then a year later they're just bang, they're ready to go, and you've got an incredible lifetime deal or something. So I test things out all the time, and I've evolved quite a lot. My stack is what they call a sort of technology stack. They call it a stack is broad and varied.
I've always wondered what the term full stack means.
It's just
I've seen that on loads of CVs, but is it basically just means they understand lots
in their window of tech? But I've got a broad and varied because of the different things that I do. So different tools for the different businesses, but it does vary. But I'm very Apple centric. I use Final Cut Pro for editing. Yeah, well, you would say that. Because if you're in creative, you need to be on Mac. It's just
I actually found out last night how to pair my Spotify, because this is going out on Spotify as well. I've always done LinkedIn, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram. What's the fifth one? I've always done 5.
Sorry, Spotify,
LinkedIn, Facebook,
Thread,
Instagram, and YouTube.
Right, yeah.
So I've always done those 5, and I've had a few people since we started saying, "Well, I can't find it." And I'm, "What are you, Apple or something?" And of course they're using Apple devices, and they're going on Apple Podcasts looking for it. So last night I discovered that I can link my Spotify account with Apple, and it's now on Apple. So as of last night, we're now on Apple.
Woo.
And it's showing all the back episodes. So
it's feeding it in.
Yeah,
nice.
Very cool. So I sussed that out last
Good
night.
for you, mate. Good for you.
So sorry, I digressed a bit there, didn't I? Where were we up to?
We were up to
Apple technology.
Yeah, I'm very Apple focused, but that most of the apps I use, it doesn't matter if you're on Windows or whatever else, but I'm Apple all the way. But yeah, it varies, and I'm constantly testing new things out. But I'm pretty settled now with what I use. But it's very different for both for the businesses. But the technology in review is pretty good. I mean, for me, a bit techie anyway. I understand it and get it. But for those who don't, probably my little lanyard, what I hang around my neck, just to tap that on a phone is quite that's amazing. So I mean, just to simplify it, basically, it's a platform that aggregates all of your reputation online. So it pulls in all of the feedback. You can send people to different locations. I know you guys have got Google. We've done a custom integration with the Guild of Master Craftsmen, I think, for you as well. We've got all sorts of ones, but we've got all that. We clients are using to ask their customers for feedback. We're using SMS, email, WhatsApp, QR codes, and now obviously the NFC, which have been particularly popular, basically because it's just so easy in front of the customer, isn't it? Just tap and go. But NFC has been a real good one for us. And it's not a particularly difficult thing, anyone can buy an NFC card and send them to a location, but it's then what do you do with the customer when they, what do you do with that person when they get there?
Am I right in saying you can kind of filter out the bad ones a little bit, or at
yeah,
least
but
see
we're
them
also
before they're published or something?
Yeah, we decide where we're going to send them, but the main thing being that we also use it a lot for businesses to capture poor feedback and then be able to handle it for their clients. Mm-hmm. So we've got estate agents and builders and other businesses that really need that feedback from the individuals that are acting on their behalf and doing the job. And if they can capture that poor feedback, you've then got a training, you can then help with training. You can also then solve the problem with the client. What we don't want is we don't want businesses just going out and bitching about you online. If you can solve it, address it, then everyone wins. You get to learn as a business. The customer's then not having a big rant about you online, and they're happy because you've had a chance to solve it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's just sometimes the
and
whole.
I guess you can see patterns. Certainly, I think you've used an example where waiters and waitresses, they're asking for this feedback with a thing hanging around their neck or whatever, and if one is consistently getting bad feedback, you can give that person more training, can't you? And same in any environment.
Everyone wins. Everyone's capable of being full keyboard warrior when they're upset about something.
Course,
but if the business doesn't know about it, how can they help you? And when the business wants the opportunity to be able to solve it, and you actually, deep in your heart, once you've calmed down and don't want to rant anymore, would like the business to solve it for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if you can both get to that point, then everyone wins. And that's something that's kind of, we hadn't anticipated that would be such a big part of it, but that seems to be really key. So they can do private feedback, they can do video testimonials on it. And then what we're also, a lot of the service-based businesses are using it. We've got a social sharing tool on there, so the best reviews, the best feedback that they get, they can then share it straight on social, and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it's been good, and we're evolving, and it's fun. It's been hard work, but I'm really, really pleased I did it. It was a problem I was trying to solve in marketing for a long time. I knew that Google wanted to be fed.
And it's obviously linked so closely with marketing because, of course, good reviews mean higher up the...
And there's SEO in there. All the keywords that your clients are putting are related to your business. If Google sees fresh content and it's being fed, it rewards you. But again, it's all about consistency.
And I think I'm right in saying you can link the reviews feed into your Facebook, into your web pages automatically and so.
So we've got all sorts of widgets and stuff that feed in automatically. Typically what we see with a lot of our clients when we first take them on is they've had a website built, the web developers picked out their reviews from Google, manually put them up.
Yeah, and of course they just pick the nice ones.
But not just that, but also that they're often the same ones 3 years later, because no one goes in and changes them. Whereas ours are constantly being updated with our client.
Which in turn increases your presence.
SEO. And it just makes it's constantly up to date then. Businesses can see it wasn't, 2022 that the last review came in, it'll be last week or a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago, and that keeps it up to speed, up to date. And it's just those little social cues. Is this a business I want to work with? Are they currently on point? Are they serving people like me right now and doing a good job? And those little social cues that when you land in people's online destinations and you see favorable feedback, also a business that's engaged. So one of the reasons that people have the tool is that they're able to go to one destination, and whether it's Facebook, Google, Trustpilot, TripAdvisor, Yelp, whatever you want, it's all in one place. You can reply directly there. We've got an AI tool if you want to use it, but we prefer to use personalization. We prefer it to be personal, show the relationship you've got with the client. But yeah, you can see a business. And so when people are checking you out, they see your relationship with your customers, your tone of voice, all those little things. So you're up to date. What's your relationship like with your client? Et cetera, et cetera. So it's got a lot of sort of hidden value there that that I think businesses that do it well really start to see the benefit. I mean, last time you bought something, Dan, were you checking out? I'm not talking about everything, but there are many instances where you go and check out who's this person, what are they like, what's this business like, what do people think about them? They can tell you how great they are, but that could be true or it could be false. But repeatedly customers giving a particular voice,
I was
you can't really get away with
over
it.
there because I just bought a new supercomputer basically to run this setup here, and I researched the hell out of it. Of course I did, and as you would anything. But
and you looked at the feedback and saw what you can. Any business will tell you it's great, but what are their customers saying about them? It's vital. You know, as you've heard me say before, your reputation is your currency of trust, and you need to manage and nurture it. And you know, over time, if there's lots and lots of feedback, the pattern becomes clear, and your customers will notice that.
Yeah. So, final question, something I always like to ask my guests is, really, who can we connect you with? If there's one person that might be listening today that they might not be listening, but someone might know that person.
Well, that's a bit of a curveball.
Who do you want a coffee with?
God.
Actually, you've asked me for this one before, so.
Oh yeah.
And I will make that happen. Marcus Piercy?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, because he's got the location. I think we could really help them. He's got some great spots. It'd be good to have a chat.
He's promised to come in here.
Has he?
Very soon. So,
I've never met him.
Yeah.
But obviously with the new site and other ones, I think there'd be a conversation there. We obviously use one of his locations every week for our business networking, and I think there's a good chat to be had there. But that's an area we've started off very much in with people we know, and other businesses have kind of lent into that we don't know. But I think food and beverage, we can clearly help food and beverage in a huge way. And it's still a business that is kind of in soft. We're just about to push to the next level, and clearly food and beverage would be a huge win for us and our customers. So that would be an area we would definitely want to get into a lot more.
Well, if nothing else, I'm sure he'll let you explore that option and see what you can do. So I think that just about wraps it up. Have you got anything? Have you got anything you want to add, or I don't know, anything you're looking for or help with, or?
No, I think if business, I probably would say if businesses want to try us out, we're more than happy to let businesses demo our platform. We're not pushy salespeople or anything like that. It's just come and have a chat with us, and we'll see how we can help them extract all that feedback from their customers that they need to get out and use it. It's a brilliant marketing tool. It's a brilliant marketing tool, and if it's not right for a business, we'll tell them.
Yeah. I know it's helping us out already. It's good stuff, mate. Thank you for coming in.
Cheers, Dan. Pleasure, mate.
The Norfolk Business Show with Danny Snelling, sponsored by MT Comms.